My name is Ashley Newcomb, and I'm here today to discuss polychlorinated biphenyls in the Hudson River, the history, the toxicology, and the cleanup. The purpose of this presentation is to give an overview of the history, the current status of GE cleanup, and the EPA monitoring of PCB levels in the Hudson River, and to discuss the effects of contamination and health outcomes on animals and humans through the process of bioaccumulation. I'll be using a series of graphs and illustrations to depict the history of the PCB dumping, the spatial representation of the Upper Hudson River cleanup area, and the PCB uptake in fish by region and by species, and will conclude with a discussion on the concept of bioaccumulation in health and human impacts. Between 1947 and 1977, General Electric dumped over 1.3 million pounds of polychlorinated biphenyls into the Hudson River. The two sites of the dumping took place at capacitor manufacturing plants in Fort Edward and Hudson Falls, which are roughly 50 miles north of Albany. You can see from the graph that the highest volume of dumping took place in a 10-year span, roughly between 1967 and 1977. By 1984, the 200-mile stretch of the river between Hudson Falls and the Battery in New York City was placed on the EPA's national priority list of the country's most contaminated hazardous waste sites. After much delay in negotiation by GE, the company agreed to remove PCBs in a manner that was compliant with and overseen by the EPA. The dredging and cleanup process finally took place between 2009 and 2015 in two phases. During Phase 1, which you can see is shown in purple on the map, approximately 283,000 cubic yards of contaminated sediment was removed from the stretch of river between Hudson River and Fort Edward. In Phase 2, which began in June 2011 and is depicted in orange on the map, the remainder of the contaminated sediment was meant to be removed. During Phase 2, approximately 2.5 million cubic yards was dredged. And in the end, the dredging project removed about 65% of the PCBs in the area north of the Troy Dam, but none downriver. The challenge was to ensure that GE removed the maximum volume of PCBs while limiting releases of these toxins into the river and air. This required, and continues to require, extensive monitoring by the EPA. So the EPA approved an operation, maintenance, and monitoring program to continuously assess the dredging and cleanup process. This includes water columns, sediment, fish, habitat, and cat monitoring. And the second 5-year review was just released in the end of 2018. So where are we today? Even now, PCBs are still being found in river sediment, water, wildlife, and even in humans. The New York State Department of Health continues to advise that children and women of childbearing potential do not eat fish from the Hudson River caught south of the manufacturing plants, and even goes one step further to recommend that no human eat any fish between Hudson Falls and the Troy Dam. As you can see from the graph on the right, the Albany and Troy area is still the most highly affected. According to the National Academy of Sciences Committee, polychlorinated biphenyls pose the largest potential carcinogenic risk of any environmental contaminant for which measurements exist. So what this means is that animals and humans are at risk of severe health effects when contaminated with PCBs. And on the right, you can see that as late as 2012, several species of fish in the Hudson River were still showing significant levels of PCBs. And what this can do is when humans consume contaminated food, it can cause liver and kidney and nervous system disorders, and PCBs can actually cause developmental and reproductive abnormalities in infants too. And once animals are exposed to these PCBs, they can't actually rid them from their bodies, and the PCBs concentrate in the tissues and organs and actually accumulate over time. And bioaccumulation is what makes PCBs particularly harmful to animals and humans as you move along the food chain. It's the process by which environmental contaminants increase in concentration as they move up the food chain, so when larger fish eat smaller fish, PCB levels found in fish can become exponentially higher than the PCB levels found in the river and the sediment. Humans are the highest on the food chain, and this obviously means they have the most severe health impacts due to bioaccumulation. So in summary, GE dumped 1.3 million pounds of toxic PCBs in the Hudson River between 1948 and 1977. But it wasn't until 2009 that the cleanup process finally took place. And now, PCB levels still vary, and the New York State Department of Health continues to advise against human consumption of fish from the Hudson River. These PCBs are toxic to animals and humans, and the process of bioaccumulation makes it impossible to get rid of PCBs once exposed, and also cause humans higher and riskier health effects. Therefore, the continued monitoring and reporting of PCB levels in the Hudson River is necessary to protect animal and human health. Thank you.